Change is certain. Life moves in pendulum swings. Joy and sorrow, ease and hardship, gain and loss. Yet certainty does not make the experience easy. There are seasons when everything seems to collapse at once, when loss does not come as a single, manageable blow but as a cascade, one piece after another tumbling away until you feel exposed and undone. You might have been holding on to small supports, a job, a relationship, a daily routine, a modest comfort, and suddenly those supports are taken away. It feels as if even the few things that kept you upright are being stripped from your hands. You ask, why does it seem like Allah is removing the little that was holding me together? Why does it feel like the blessings are being snatched one by one? To make sense of that painful experience, imagine for a moment how the Prophet ﷺ must have felt after Badr. Allah granted a decisive, miraculous victory. Angels were sent in support, and the Qur'ān itself attributes that triumph to the acceptance of du'a and the help of Allah. The community returned with strengthened faith, the Ansar ready to embrace the Messenger with renewed conviction. Yet amid that outward triumph, there was private grief. Ruqayyah, the Prophet's daughter, had passed away. The day of Badr became for the companions and for the Prophet a day of mixed extremes, a day of great joy, and a day of great sorrow. That juxtaposition, victory paired with loss, is an emblematic example of how ni'mah and test can coincide. This is precisely the reality the Salaf warned us about, and the du'a of the Prophet ﷺ modeled, "O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the sudden decline of your blessings, from the sudden change of well-being, from the abruptness of your retribution, and from all of your wrath." The du'a itself acknowledges the frightening nature of sudden loss. Tests in this life often do not arrive as neat, spaced-out lessons. We are used to predictable patterns, regular prayers, regular work, familiar routines. But trials are unpredictable. They may come in clusters, and sometimes the worst instances of several trials coalesce in one season. The life of the Prophet ﷺ presents this plainly. There was a year in which the most severe afflictions of his prophetic mission gathered together: the loss of loved ones, Khadija and Abu Talib, the humiliation in Ta'if, the intensification of persecution. A year the Ummah calls the Khara'a min Azan, the year of grief. If you examine his entire prophetic career, you will find that the most acute manifestations of certain trials, the worst social rejection, the deepest personal loss, seem to concentrate in that single year. The clustering of trials is not necessarily a sign of personal failure, it is part of the human condition under divine decree. So when your world is dwindling and one blessing after another departs, how should you reorient yourself? The first vital move is to reframe that phase. See it either as an invitation to repentance or as a means of elevation in rank. Trials do one of these two things, or perhaps both. They can wake the soul from complacency, drawing it back to sincerity and to correction. They can also be the very instrument by which Allah raises the believer's station, purifies character, and multiplies reward. Many people raise the objection of gratitude. But I was grateful, and yet my blessings were taken. The simple maxim is known: blessings remain with gratitude, and they flee with ingratitude. Yet our lived experience can seem to contradict this aphorism. How do we reconcile them? One possibility is this: your gratitude may have secured some portion of what otherwise might have left you. It may have retained for you a spiritual benefit that will count for you on the day of judgment. Even if the outward blessing is gone, the sincere praise you uttered while you had it will be capital for you in the hereafter. In other words, gratitude can make a temporal blessing into an everlasting provision when the person offers thanks with humility and recognition. Still, Allah will test His servants, and the loss can be sudden. You are not required to deny the pain. The Prophet ﷺ himself and the companions felt sorrow. Grief is a human reaction. The test, however, is how we orient our sorrow. Do we lose ourselves in despair, or do we hold to patience and submission? The Qur'ānic language is sobering. By time, verily, man is in loss. The surah opens with a general statement about human loss, but then provides the remedy. Those who believe, do righteous deeds, exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patience. These are the exceptions to the general loss. Moreover, the Qur'an reminds us what you have will perish, and what is with Allah remains, and we will recompense the patient with the best of what they used to do. The emphasis here is on perspective. The transitory nature of worldly possessions is contrasted with the permanence of what Allah has preserved for the believer. The text does not promise immediate replacement of every loss with an equivalent worldly good. Rather, it guarantees that the patient will be rewarded in ways that are fitting and often superior to what was lost. Allah also says, "And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and diminution of wealth, lives, and fruits. But give glad tidings to the steadfast." The divine promise is not that trials have matching cures in exactly the same domain. It is that patience carries its own recompense. The Prophet ﷺ described patience as a gift unparalleled by any other. No one has been granted a gift better and more spacious than patience. Imam Hasan al-Basri said succinctly, "A patience is a treasure among the treasures of good." A common temptation is to argue with the timing of Allah's decree. We wish the pain had come at another moment, if only this loss had not coincided with other pressure points. We ask whether it would have been better for a dear one to have lived longer or for a job to have lasted another year. The point of the devotional life, however, is not to master the calendar of Allah. As Umar ibn Abdul Aziz prayed, he conceded his inability to command the timing of the decree, and instead sought contentment. O Allah, make me content with your decree and bless me in your provision, such that I neither desire to hasten what you have delayed nor delay what you have hastened. Sometimes the darkness that descends upon a person is the very medium by which divine mercy is made visible later. Perhaps Allah allows a season of hardship so that we might come to know with the depth that only trial produces the blessings that were previously taken for granted. The schooling of difficulty often yields spiritual eyesight. We perceive the value of what we had only after it is gone, and we learn to attach our hope to what is enduring. Practical counsel must be gentle and realistic. Do not expect to be instantly cheerful or to move on as if nothing significant happened. Sincere grief deserves space and expression. It is not piety to deny the pain. Piety in such moments involves bringing the pain before Allah, narrating it to Him with the heart's honesty, and choosing patient surrender over despair. Keep the focus on your standing with Allah more than on the immediate cessation of distress. The believer's presence before the divine is the primary concern. Worldly relief is a blessing if it comes, but it is not the ultimate aim. In the meantime, use the season of loss as a prompt to specific acts. Renew your remembrance. Maintain your regular worship. Seek repentance sincerely. Support the weak. Give charity where possible. And hold to ties of kinship. These are not magic remedies, but they are the disciplines that instantiate patience and cultivate the soul. Moreover, the gratitude you cultivated remains of benefit. Even if the outward blessing departs, the grateful heart has earned a record that will testify on the day of reckoning. We should not minimize the legitimacy of asking, "Why me?" or "Why now?" Those questions arise naturally from a heart that sought steadiness and found instead turbulence. But alongside the questions, remember the prophetic model. Victory and loss can coexist. Joy and sorrow can share a day. When the Prophet ﷺ returned from Badr to the news of his child's passing, his condition taught the Ummah that life's realities are intertwined and that righteous response, grounded in submission and patience, is the appropriate posture. If you face zawal al-nima, anchor yourself in the truths the Qur'ān and Sunnah provide. Remember that what you have in this life is temporary and that what Allah preserves for you is lasting. Take comfort in the fact that Allah al-His tests, and that He promises recompense to those who remain steadfast. Let grief be acknowledged, but do not let it become a means by which you lose your footing entirely. Hold fast to the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ and the words of the righteous predecessors who taught patience as treasure and contentment with the divine decree as the fruit of wisdom. In sum, change is inevitable, and the sudden loss of blessings is a trial many will face. The example of the Prophet ﷺ, the warnings and consolations of the Qur'an, the du'as he taught, and the wisdom of the pious all guide us to a single posture: patience, gratitude where possible, and submission. See loss not solely as a deprivation but as an occasion, whether for awakening, for purification, or for being raised in rank. Keep your eyes on what remains with Allah, not merely on what slips through your fingers. Be honest with your sorrow, steadfast in your worship, and hopeful in the promise that Allah rewards patiently enduring hearts with what is better than the comforts that have departed.